Ian Garry can't stop making a fool of himself. Yes, you heard that right. Yes, I do not like Ian Garry. I can put some things aside, but this guy just won't stop making a fool out of himself. He'll be taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov this weekend at UFC 310, and already pundits and journalists alike are going in on all the fans as to why we dislike this guy. And I think my man Jay MMA puts it perfectly. I really don't understand why people keep acting like Ian Garry is disliked for no reason. In this video, I'm going to get into it and give a little bit of background as to why people do not like Ian Garry at all. They can't stand his character, the shtick, the personality, his wife. All of it. Awful to watch, awful to see unfold over the last couple of years. This is a guy who I liked in the beginning. I adored what he was doing. He was this young, confident kid, put on some good performances. I liked where things were headed, but then all of a sudden, the more he got on the mic, the more he talked, the more he got exposed in the media realm, the more I began to understand this guy is not exactly who he portrays. So, Luke Thomas this week decided to say this regarding Ian Garry and his possible win over Shavkat Rakhmonov. If you're a wanker, Garry winning is your 9/11. I mean, if you're the biggest fucking loser that ever lived, Garry winning is a nightmare. A nightmare for you. But for everybody else, it's actually kind of a cool story. No, it's not going to be a cool story at all. This guy is not a good guy, okay? Luke Thomas, you do not understand. We are not all incels simply because we disagree with a certain aspect of what you have to say on anything. There's many things that I agree with Luke Thomas on, but this is absolute horseshit. This is a guy, Luke Thomas, who constantly goes after MMA fans and calls them degenerates and calls them pieces of crap. Yes, are there degenerates out there? Absolutely. There's degenerates of every population, every demographic out there. But for the most part, we're not all looking for blood and looking for incel type behavior, okay? That's just not how we operate. We're normal people just like you, Luke Thomas. But I don't know. So, they met up this week before face-offs, before the press conference. Former teammates Ian Garry and Shavkat Rakhmonov showing respect to each other before their fight. Is this respect or is this uncomfortable behavior? Let's see what Ian Garry did here.
Good job. You good? Hey, training. You good, guys? You ready? Wait, good? Ready? Of course you are. Of course you are. You're always ready. Always ready. Let's go, guys.
See that big hot breath he gives at the end? That explains the entire interaction. This is, listen, I'm not a body language expert, but I know enough about body language to know that when you're putting out this extra level of confidence, it's an act. He's not really this confident. He's not really this personable. He's going in here and he's hugging Shavkat and saying, good job. Look at Shavkat's face, man. He's like, what is going on? This guy's been talking mad shit online and all of a sudden he wants to hug me and shake my hand. Shavkat's a respectful guy. Ian Garry may be a respectful guy, but this is way overboard because you're covering for what you're saying online. Basically, compensating for all the shit talk you've done, making sure, hey, I didn't really mean that. I just said it. This face sells it all. That hot breath at the end from Ian Garry sells it all. He's been talking crazy crap. Let's bring it back to the beginning when the worst of the worst came out of Ian Garry. He was supposed to fight Vicente Luque back last year in the end of the year. And Luque made this big post. He was getting baptized, becoming more into the faith, into Christianity, whatever. It was a big deal for him to be baptized. It's a big moment in people's lives. This is like the second birth of Christians, okay? If you don't understand that, that's what that, basically, your baptism is, I guess. And so Ian Garry said this, responding to this, baptism. Vicente Luque, proud of his faith, putting it out there on the line that I am a Christian, I'm proud, I just got baptized. Wonder Boy, so awesome, brother. Rodolfo Vieira, well done, awesome job. Gilbert Burns, very happy for him. Ian Garry decides to take this time as a former training partner of Vicente Luque, a former friend of Vicente Luque, to say December 16th, he'll be standing in front of you, tall, blonde, and all-powerful, saying that Ian Garry is Jesus Christ. What? This is like the one thing you shouldn't be bullshitting and shouldn't be coming out of the woodworks to talk shit on in regards to this. Remember the whole Neil Magny incident? How Neil Magny said, I'm going to slap Ian Garry around like I would give my little kid a little bit of a whooping when he needs to be put in his place. Okay, that's what, come to reality smack upside the head. Not literally smack him upside the head. That little spanking on the back that you give him. Not a beating of a child. Ian Garry decided to spin Neil Magny saying a comment like, I'm going to humble this kid. I'm going to smack him upside his head like I would my kid to tell him what he's doing right or wrong. Ian Garry's insane, and he said that Neil Magny's a child abuser. What the fuck? Listen to what Neil Magny had to say after the fight and after these comments. Neil Magny's one of the nicest guys in the sport.
Terrible short character on my end to kind of kick Melody down at this point, especially when there's a child at stake in the middle of all this. Like, I'm sure his dad may have said some dumb things or whatever, but I'm no different than Ian Garry. I may be a little less reserved as far as, like, I'm not as outspoken as he has, but I made plenty of stupid decisions that affected the way that my life has played out over the last couple of years. So
Neil Magny, was having a custody battle with his kids at the time of the Ian Garry fight. He took the fight on late notice. He said something in an offhand comment like, I'm going to humble this kid like I would, humble my own kid. And then Ian Garry spun that into he's a child abuser. And Neil Magny, even after saying stuff like that, he still took the high road and said, you know what, it is what it is. I've done dumb things. Ian Garry probably just misspoke, said a dumb thing. Well, that's not true at all. And check this out. This is what the consequence of Ian Garry saying that was. Ian Garry's comments, this is from Neil Magny directly. Ian Garry's comments in and of itself had a lot more consequence than just like nonsense at the press conference. These were literally screenshots being taken of headlines saying that I'm a child abuser and I do this to my kids. There were screenshots being taken and put into apps and things like that that would be admissible in court where I'm literally fighting for the custody of my children. So these things were brought up in court when he was fighting for the custody of his kids. Things that Ian Garry claimed that Neil Magny was, even though there was no such evidence to back it up. Absolutely insane. This guy is an absolute prick. Ian Garry thinks that he can live life without consequence, and I'm tired of it. I cannot understand this stuff. I'm usually whatever, it's a shtick, it's a character. Colby Covington, it's all played up, it's all a character. But this Ian Garry stuff goes beyond it. I don't know. I don't like him. He's a good fighter. I know he's a good fighter. He's a great fighter. He's very technical. My God, it's crazy. Listen to Anthony Smith talking about it.
I will say, though, the one thing that I will be very strong about with Ian Garry is the Neil Magny thing. Really fucking bothers me. It's one thing to create some drama, but not at the expense of the reputation of someone that's as good of a man as Neil Magny.
But the biggest issue of...
Thanks to the Weasel for that little edit there, but literally this had implications on the custody of his children. Dude, you can't keep doing this. Here he is with MVP. Remember when he fought MVP earlier this year? Let's take a listen.
What was said, the build-up, everything I said was factual and true. I'm not lying, I don't lie. There was money offered, and it's filthy, and I think it's cheating, and I think it's disgusting in the sport. But
money offered, this was in regards to MVP paying guys to go spy on Ian Garry's camp. Okay? It's dirty, I don't lie, blah, blah, blah. He was saying all kinds of crap leading up to the fight with MVP, but then he likes to bring his kid in there to play the barrier, to play interference. Like, hey, I've been talking shit online. I've been going at you. My wife and I have been berating you online. But hey, I'm going to show up in person and shake your hand with my kid because if my baby, my infant is here in my arms, you're not going to beat me up. Remember the whole Jeff Neal thing with the Jeff Neal mugshot on his shirt? Yeah. How that was just absolutely out of whack, crazy. Let's listen to what Jeff Neal had to say about it.
I don't know. He said, I was watching things you say. He said it was his team that did it. It wasn't him. But I mean, he decided to go that route, and I don't know. Fuck it. I wasn't too pissed off about it. It was just annoying, and then people thought it was funny. I'm like, you think that shit funny? There's nothing funny about it. You put somebody's mugshot on a shirt, and that's funny. That's tasteless. That's, you know what I mean? That's
previous mistakes made in his life, yes, but he wasn't pissed off. It was just annoying because then everybody was coming after him for it. And once again, he's always carrying his kid. Yes, is he a proud father, but you seem to carry your kid around when you need protection against guys like MVP that are all business, that come from a, let's say, darker background, a harder upbringing. Again, Jeff Neal ran into Ian Garry before their fight and looked annoyed. Look at Ian, very uncomfortable, side-eyeing and going, you know what, I need to go up to Jeff Neal and make sure everything's good. That's what Ian Garry would say, but we know the truth of this. You're just covering, trying to say, hey man, I didn't really mean any of that stuff I said online. Jeff Neal wants nothing to do with him. He brushes him off like he's nothing. And you can see it right here. Watch one more time. Jeff Neal barely, like, you're talking all this shit online and now you're going to come up to me and say, hey, like, hey, good luck, man. Even though you've been shit talking me for months and months and months, you're just going to shake my hand. Like, Jeff Neal had this exact reaction. Like, what the fuck, dude? What are you, okay? Like, I'm not going to beat you up in public, dude. Like, calm down. Ian Garry's way too over the top with this shit and I'm tired of it. The guy, every time he steps out in public, has very awkward interactions. He is not confident in himself. It's a false bravado, a false confidence. Is he a good fighter? Yes. But that's the end of the line. This is not a nice guy. This is not a good guy. He's using his kid as protection. He's taking things out of context. He's taking things and blowing them up out of proportion. Tired of it. Tired of this bullshit. The UFC, Joe Rogan specifically, Luke Thomas, keep pretending like this guy is the nicest guy in the world. He's the best up-and-coming fighter. He can do no wrong. Why do people dislike this guy? Because MMA Guru said something one time? Yeah, MMA Guru exposed this guy for what he is. And that's just a fucking fact, okay? Nobody's making shit up about Ian Garry. He's one of the most dislikable figures in MMA. If he turns full heel and starts playing into the bad guy, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, like WWE. But he thinks that he is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He thinks he's the nicest guy since Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, this dude's beyond delusional. Ian Garry is an absolute clown. He thinks that he's making clowns out of his opponents, but instead he's turning all the fans against him. Nobody likes this guy. I'm tired of hearing it. He's a good fighter, but that is the absolute end of it.